Siminalayi Fubara has signed 3 peace deals with Nyesom Wike in less than 3 years. 3. Each one announced as final, each one blessed by President Tinubu at Aso Rock, each one collapsed within months. So here is the question nobody in mainstream Nigerian media is asking. Is Wike's latest peace offer a genuine ceasefire, or is it a political trap designed to extract the last thing Fubara has left, his second term? Because right now, as you watch this video, Fubara is sitting at Government House, Port Harcourt, back in office, yes, but governing in a state where Wike's allies control 21 of 23 local government councils, where a 3rd impeachment attempt was launched and suspended only after presidential intervention, and where the peace deal the nation celebrated in February 2026 came with conditions so steep that Fubara dissolved his own cabinet to comply. The man agreed to remove his own people from power, and yet, as of today, Wike has publicly said he is not working with Fubara and has not endorsed him for 2027. So what exactly was the peace for? Stay with me, because this analysis goes deeper than anything you have heard on Nigerian television, and the answer changes everything you think you know about how power actually works in Rivers State. If you are new to Pulse Nigeria HQ, this channel exists to give you the political analysis that mainstream media will not touch. Subscribe now, and stay with me because this video only gets deeper from here. How we got here. The 3-year war. To understand what is happening today, you need to understand how this crisis was built brick by brick over 3 years. In May 2023, Siminalayi Fubara was sworn in as governor of Rivers State. He was Wike's man, handpicked, guided through the primaries, and installed. At his inauguration, Fubara literally begged Wike not to leave him. "Please don't be too far from me, because I know the sharks and tigers are around." Those were his exact words. Within 6 months, those same sharks had appeared, and they were wearing Wike's colors. By October 2023, 25 members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, loyal to Wike, initiated impeachment proceedings against Fubara. The crisis descended rapidly. The assembly complex was demolished following a suspicious fire. Legislative sessions were relocated to a temporary venue. Bomb blasts rocked the state. This was governance in Nigeria's second wealthiest state, reduced to theater of destruction. President Tinubu intervened in December 2023, Peace Deal No. 1. Fubara conceded political appointments to Wike's loyalists. The deal collapsed within months. In March 2025, after a second round of impeachment proceedings and the bombing of 2 strategic oil pipelines, Tinubu invoked Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution and declared a state of emergency. Fubara, his deputy, Professor Ngozi Odu, and all elected members of the State Assembly were suspended. Retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas was appointed sole administrator. 6 months of emergency rule in an oil-producing state that contributes significantly to Nigeria's federal revenue. Then in June 2025, Peace Deal No. 2, brokered again at Aso Rock. Fubara walked in alone. Wike walked in with his full political retinue. Presidency sources later told Punch that Fubara had agreed to complete his term without seeking re-election. Wike told journalists, "Everything is over." Fubara thanked God. Within 3 months, that deal had also broken down. December 2025, Fubara defected from PDP to APC, a move his supporters said was a strategic play for survival designed to weaken Wike's leverage by entering Tinubu's party directly. Wike's response was immediate. January 2026, a 3rd impeachment notice signed by 26 lawmakers citing 8 allegations, including failure to present the 2026 budget and reckless spending. And in February 2026, Peace Deal No. 3, Cabinet dissolved, budget promised, allies removed from office. Why does every Fubara peace deal collapse, and is the pattern deliberate on one side or both? If Fubara has already defected to APC and complied with 3 peace deals, why is Wike still publicly saying he is not working with him, and what does Wike actually want? What the Constitution says and what politics does to it. Let us be precise about the institutional landscape, because what is happening in Rivers State is not simply a personality clash. It is a stress test of Nigerian constitutional governance. Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, grants the President power to declare a state of emergency when a state is unable to function effectively. The President used this provision in March 2025, but legal scholars and civil society groups immediately raised a question the major media largely ignored. Was there sufficient legal basis? The Constitution requires a situation of breakdown of public order and public safety before emergency rule can be triggered. Critics argued that what Tinubu presented, pipeline bombings and political gridlock, did not meet this threshold, particularly when it was the federal government's own inaction in mediating the crisis that allowed it to escalate. Here is what most Nigerians missed. When the President suspended the governor and the lawmakers simultaneously, he effectively removed both sides of a dispute he was supposed to mediate. That is not constitutional conflict resolution, it is conflict management by elimination. And when IBAS, the administrator, approved a 1.48 trillion 2025 appropriation budget during the emergency period, it created a new institutional problem. Fubara returned to office in September 2025, facing a budget he did not write for a financial year already 9 months old. His refusal to present supplementary budgets demanded by the Wike-aligned assembly was not simply defiance, it was, in legal terms, a contest over which executive authority was legitimate. On the impeachment process itself, Section 188 of the 1999 Constitution set out the procedure. A notice signed by at least 1/3 of House members must be served on the governor. An investigation committee must be set up within 7 days. The governor has 14 days to respond. What is critical here? A Rivers State House of Assembly in which 25 of 32 members are loyal to Wike can initiate impeachment at any time, and the Constitution gives the governor limited procedural protections. Fubara's primary protection has not been the Constitution, it has been the presidency. That dependency on the presidency is itself an institutional problem. It means that governance in Rivers State has effectively been outsourced to Asorot. The governor cannot govern unless Tinubu maintains the ceasefire. That is not how a federal democracy is designed to work. Who wins, who loses, and who is playing a deeper game? Let us move beyond the surface narrative and examine the political chessboard. Wike's stated grievance is betrayal. Fubara renegade on commitments, political appointments, council chairmen, the traditional ruler's council chairmanship, and most critically, a reported agreement not to seek re-election. But here is the deeper strategic reality. Wike does not simply want Fubara to comply, Wike wants Rivers State. Every time a peace deal has been signed, Wike has strengthened his structural position. After the June 2025 deal, his allies won 21 of 23 LGA chairmanships in the August 2025 council elections, elections conducted under the watchful eye of Tinubu's emergency administrator. After the February 2026 deal, Fubara dissolved his own cabinet and removed his closest allies from office. Each peace deal has been a ratchet, turning one click at a time in Wike's direction. Now, the publicly stated reason for the latest ceasefire is institutional harmony, budget presentation, governance restoration, peace. But the real driver is the 2027 elections. Tinubu needs Rivers State for re-election. In 2023, Tinubu won Rivers by a slim and contested margin. BBC investigations suggested Peter Obi actually won the state. Wike, as FCT Minister, is Tinubu's single most important asset in Rivers politics. Wike controls the PDP structure in the state and, having installed 21 LGA chairmen under APC, now effectively controls the APC structure too. No Rivers governor, no federal president can afford to alienate Wike before 2027. That is why every intervention comes from Aso Rock. That is why every deal favors Wike's structural position. And that is why Fubara's defection to APC, far from being a strength, may have been a strategic miscalculation. Now, let us look at Fubara's position. Since returning from suspension in September 2025, observers noted a new version of the governor, bolder, more confident, more willing to name his opponents. His APC registration number was 001, a clear signal of his intended leadership of the party in the state. He began hosting senior federal officials, national security advisors, and APC governors who gave him conspicuous public support. He reportedly endorsed 32 candidates for state assembly seats, all loyalists. This is not the behavior of a governor preparing to quietly exit in 2027. This is a governor building a structure for re-election, and that is precisely what Wike cannot accept. The silent stakeholders in this conflict deserve naming. President Tinubu needs both men functional before 2027, but structurally cannot afford to lose Wike. APC Governors Forum largely supports Fubara, calling on Tinubu to rein in Wike, viewing the Rivers crisis as a party stability problem. Oil companies and investors, River State's instability directly affects production in the Niger Delta. 3 years of crisis in Nigeria's largest oil-producing state has created measurable investor uncertainty. Wike's coalition of PDP and APC loyalists, who now control both party structures and will decide who the 2027 candidate is, regardless of what party primary rules say. Martin Amayawele, the Assembly Speaker, who, under Section 191 of the 1999 Constitution, becomes governor if both Fubara and his deputy are removed. A Wike loyalist, one successful impeachment away from government house. Now, if what I just told you surprises you, drop a comment below. I want to know what you think before we get to the section that changes everything. What Rivers State is telling us about Nigerian democracy? Let us take this beyond Port Harcourt. Rivers State contributes between 30% and 40% of Nigeria's crude oil output on any given day. 3 years of governance crisis in this state has not been an abstraction. It has been a concrete drag on federal revenue, on NNPCL operations, on the confidence of international oil companies who need political stability to justify capital expenditure. The pipeline bombings that triggered the March 2025 emergency rule cost Nigeria millions of dollars in lost production. No one has been held to account. On the federal-state power balance, what has happened in Rivers is a precedent. The federal government suspended a democratically elected governor and his entire legislature for 6 months. It appointed an unelected administrator to govern a state of over 7 million people. The 1999 Constitution permits this, but political scientists and constitutional lawyers have been largely united in arguing that it should require a higher evidentiary threshold than was applied. If the Tinubu administration can deploy Section 305 in Rivers, it can deploy it anywhere. That is a conversation Nigerian civil society has not fully had. On democratic institutions, the Rivers House of Assembly has been weaponized 3 times in 3 years to remove a sitting governor. The impeachment mechanism, designed as a constitutional safeguard, has functioned as an instrument of factional warfare. When political actors can summon and withdraw impeachment proceedings depending on the outcomes of private meetings in Abuja, the constitutional process has been hollowed out. This weakens Nigeria's democracy at the sub-national level in ways that will outlast Fubara and Wike. On oil revenue and the economy, the N1.48 trillion naira 2025 Rivers budget approved during emergency rule and the 2026 budget standoff created a period in which Rivers State effectively had no functioning appropriation framework for months. In a state generating billions in oil revenue, the absence of a legal spending framework is not a procedural issue. It is a governance catastrophe that affects public servants, contractors, and ordinary Rivers people.
What Fubara's critics say and where they are right and wrong. Let us engage the strongest case against Fubara's position, because analytical honesty requires it. The case goes like this. Fubara entered a political arrangement with clear expectations. Wike delivered. He won him the governorship. Political agreements, even informal ones, create obligations. Fubara's repeated reneging on those commitments, the appointments, the council chairman, the Supreme Court's compliance on financial autonomy is not just a personal betrayal, but a form of bad faith governance. A governor who makes agreements before the president and immediately begins to undermine them is not a victim, he is an actor in his own crisis. This argument has merit. The documented pattern of Fubara emerging from peace meetings sounding conciliatory and then immediately pivoting to confrontation, deploying proverbs about not bowing, rallying supporters with coded defiance is a real pattern. The Nation newspaper described it precisely. Every time Fubara recovered from a peace deal, the hawks around him pulled him back to conflict. But here is the counterintuitive reality that rewrites the narrative. The agreements Fubara is accused of reneging on were never formally documented. Wike himself told journalists in July 2025 that he would allow people to speculate on the terms. The agreements were oral, they were private, they were unwritten, and the conditions reportedly included Fubara surrendering his second term, surrendering LGA appointments, and restoring a specific individual to the Traditional Rulers Council chairmanship. Ask yourself, are these governance agreements or are they conditions of political surrender? And if Wike truly wanted only good governance and institutional compliance, why would the main demand be that a sitting governor agrees not to seek re-election? The misconception circulating most widely on Nigerian social media is that this is simply a fight between two stubborn politicians. It is not. It is a structured attempt by one faction to lock in political control of a state using constitutional mechanisms as weapons, and the fact that the national government has consistently intervened to stabilize the situation on terms that favor the more powerful faction raises serious questions about institutional impartiality. What happens next and what you must watch? Let us close the loops we opened and lay out what comes next. Every Fubara peace deal has collapsed for the same structural reason. The terms require Fubara to weaken himself in exchange for Wike's forbearance, and forbearance is not the same as peace. Each deal buys Fubara time at the cost of political equity. Wike is not interested in stable coexistence, he is interested in succession. And Fubara, despite compliance, keeps refusing to exit the field for 2027. That refusal is the irreconcilable conflict at the heart of every failed deal. Wike's public distancing from Fubara in May 2026, declaring "We are not working with Fubara," while maintaining control of both PDP and ACP structures in the state, is not a contradiction, it is a strategy. Wike does not need to formally endorse anyone until the primary window opens. What he needs is structural control of local government, of party machinery, of the assembly. He already has that. Fubara can be governor in name while Wike governs in effect. What Wike cannot accept is Fubara using that governorship to build his own political machine for 2027. The moment Fubara endorsed 32 assembly candidates and accepted a nomination form from his supporters, he crossed that line. That is the current state of play. Here is what to watch in the coming weeks and months. The 2027 ACP governorship primary in Rivers State. If Fubara's allies are systematically disqualified, as happened with the May 2026 assembly screening, that is the clearest signal that the party machinery is being used to predetermine the outcome. Wike's formal endorsement announcement. He has promised he will name his preferred candidate. When that name emerges, whether Kingsley Chinda on PDP or Marcus Eji or another ally on ACP, it will define the 2027 battle lines. Whether Tinubu will continue as guarantor of Fubara's political survival or whether he withdraws that protection as his own 2027 calculations shift. Any return of impeachment proceedings in the Rivers Assembly. The third attempt was suspended, not abandoned. If Fubara's structural positioning becomes unacceptable to the Assembly majority, the constitutional weapon is still loaded. Oil sector developments in Rivers. Any new pipeline crisis, any new security incident in the Delta attributed fairly or unfairly to the political environment will provide justification for further federal intervention. The best-case scenario is Tinubu holds the ceasefire through 2027, Fubara completes his term, the governorship contest is decided by voters in a free and fair primary and general election, and Rivers State finally begins the governance recovery it has been denied for 3 years. The worst-case scenario is the February 2026 peace deal collapses like its predecessors. Impeachment proceedings resume, a fourth state of emergency is declared, and if both Fubara and his deputy are removed, by design or by default, Martin Amaiwele, the Wike loyalist, walks into Government House as governor of Rivers State without a single vote being cast. That second scenario would not merely be a Rivers State crisis. It would be a test of whether Nigerian democracy can survive the organized conversion of constitutional mechanisms into tools of political conquest.
We opened with a question. Is this peace deal genuine or a political trap designed to extract the last thing Fubara has left? After this analysis, the answer is, it is neither simply genuine nor simply a trap. It is a recurring transaction in which each side temporarily accepts terms they do not intend to honor fully because neither can afford the alternative. Fubara cannot survive another emergency rule, and Wike cannot yet guarantee a successor without Tinubu's cooperation. What is real is this: Rivers State's oil wealth, its 7 million people, its democratic institutions have all been collateral damage in a personal and factional war that has run for 3 consecutive years. 3 peace deals, 3 collapses, 3 presidential interventions. And the fundamental question, who governs Rivers and who chooses the next governor? Fubara have called Wike's bluff by not exiting the race. Whether he has the structural power to back that up, that is what 2027 will decide. The game may not yet be over, but the clock is running. If this analysis gave you clarity on what is really happening in Rivers State, share it with one person who needs to see it. Like the video, subscribe to Pulse Nigeria HQ, and I will see you in the next one.